Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on whichever part of the world you are tuning in from. I'm very excited to welcome you to our first edition of the Forex Morning Mastery. Since this is going to be the first trading day of the week, happy Monday to you all. And I do hope you had a blissful and quite interesting weekend. So it's another new week, and in fact, we are going to be taking a fresh new look at the financial market. And during the course of the weekend, I was able to publish one major asset, which is my favorite, of course, the XAUUSD, which is popularly known as the gold spot. And the reason why I was able to do only one is simply because of my tight schedule during the course of the weekend. But in a matter of fact, we are going to be taking on three major assets for this week, which is on my radar for the Forex Morning Mastery. And this includes the US Spot and, of course, the GBPUSD, which we are going to be taking in conjunction with the XAUUSD. And I'm going to be doing a top-down analysis on the first two. Now, for the XAUUSD, you can find the link in the description box below for those who have not watched my video, as the watching of the video will give you a background understanding of how we got to this point we will be seeing on the 1 hour time frame. Remember, the 1 hour time frame is basically our execution time frame. For those who are joining us for the first time, you are highly welcome on board. I'm very excited to have you around with us this morning. And what we simply do here as technical traders is to come together in anticipation of both the London and New York session to review our existing position if we have any, use the information we can gather from the charts from a technical standpoint to strategically position ourselves ahead of both the London and the New York session. And we do this on a daily basis, 8:05 a.m. UTC, 9:05 a.m. West African time. So I welcome you once again, and I encourage you to stay tuned in so you don't miss out on any of the insightful ideas we will be deliberating on today. And the more time you spend with us, the better you get in understanding how the strategy works, and eventually be able to use the information you gather here to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, I welcome you all on board. Now, as usual, the next thing we are going to be doing this morning is to run through the economic calendar, as by now we all know how important this daily routine is, as these fundamental factors often manifest on the chart in technical patterns and price movement. By monitoring the economic calendar, we can easily identify potential correlations between key economic events, economic releases, and specific technical patterns on the chart, hereby giving us valuable information needed to strategically position ourselves in such a way that we can capitalize on any potential move prior, during, and even after the event. And on the economic calendar, we usually focus on high impact events from the economic docket that affects the asset on our watch list. And based on the asset I mentioned earlier, we are going to be focusing on high impact event from the United Kingdom and the United States economic docket. Now, for this week, we have a series of high impact events which everyone will be looking forward to. In fact, I had to write them down somewhere because they are going to be playing a major role in determining whether the Feds are going to be increasing the interest rate or not. So we have the inflationary data, that is the consumer and the producer price index, which are coming up much more later in the week, Wednesdays and Thursday. Then we also have the Fed minute, which will be published tomorrow, I think, And these are very, very high impact events that everyone will be looking forward to. And don't also forget that we are currently witnessing a tension in the Middle East right now, which definitely will be affecting the assets for this week. In fact, we have bullish gaps all over the places. If you looked at all the charts, you'll see that we had bullish gap over the weekend, which of course gave an insight into what institutional investors are thinking about the market at that particular point in time. Now, this escalating geopolitical tension could shift momentum towards safe havens, such as the commodities like the gold, the silver, the oil, for instance, too. So we are going to be looking at the market to see how this is going to be affecting price action after reading through the current market structure. So for today, Monday, October 9th, we do not have any high impact event to look forward to, but there are major events, medium impact events, which has a tendency of also affecting the price action. Now, let's look at what we have here. The first one we have is for today is, hold on a second. The first one is the IMF meeting, which has actually started, and this is going to go on for a week. And for those who don't know what the IMF meeting is, well, this refers to the regular gathering of member countries and global financial leaders organized by the International Monetary Fund. Now, during these meetings, discussions revolve around global economic issues, policies, and forecasts, providing us with vital insight into the future direction of financial markets. And of course, we want to be keeping tabs with whatever happens there. So by the end of today, we should be able to get an highlight of what really happened today, and we'll continue to monitor as whatever statement these key players in this market, in the financial landscape, will be saying has a tendency of affecting price movement. So we are going to be monitoring that one closely. Then later on today, in about 5 hours, is it 5 hours? What time is it right now? It's 9:30, 8:30 UTC. So in about 5-6 hours from now, Logan is going to be having a speech. Logan is the president and chief executive officer of the 11th District Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. So he's going to be having a speech today. Then we also having Fed Jefferson. Fed Jefferson is a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, and he also will be having a speech in about 6-7 hours from now. That's from the United States. Then from the United Kingdom, we have is the Monetary Policy Committee member of the Bank of England, and she's also going to be having a speech later today. Now, the importance of this speech is this. Whenever we anticipate these speeches like this, we look forward to insight into the monetary policies of these economies. And these records offer valuable clues about future interest rate changes, economic outlook, and inflation concern, shaping our trading strategies along the line as they gradually come into limelight. So then we also have the BRC like-for-like retail sales from the United Kingdom, which is coming up very late today, I think in about 12 hours from now. 13 hours from now. And for those who don't know what the LFL is, it represents the percentage change in sales of retail stores that have been trading for over a year. Now, it provides a crucial measure of retailers' organic growth, and this also gives us an insight into the consumer spending trend, hereby indicating the health of the retail sales sector and the overall economic sentiment in that particular economy. And in this case, we are talking about the United Kingdom. So we have a previous data here which came in at 4.3% for the month of August, and we have a consensus projecting 3.1% for the month of September. And generally speaking, a high reading or a higher than expected reading is considered as positive for that economy, which of course will dovetail in a positive traction in the favor of the pound sterling. Now, what the economies are expecting here is quite below the previous data, which gives us an insight into the potential of a contraction in that sector. So we are still going to be looking forward to what the actual data will be. And of course, we know that the anticipation of this event alone also has a tendency of influencing the market sentiment, which will reflect on the chart as price action. Now, talking about price action, let's dive right into the chart and let's look at things from a technical standpoint. I see your comment, Mansur Hassan. Good morning to you. Glad to have you around with us this morning, and I do hope you had a wonderful weekend out there. So the first asset we are going to be taking on this morning is going to be, as usual, the USOILSPOT, though I already have a sell position running right now. So like I said earlier, I didn't do any publication on the USOILSPOT on all of my public platforms. So I will be doing a top-down analysis so we can all have a background knowledge of how we got to this point, and also use it as an educational tool in increasing your proficiency in price action. So to get this right, we will be scaling up into the higher time frame. And in fact, what I did here was I think I started from the daily time frame. Yes, I did started from the daily time frame, my analysis. And the first thing I was able to observe on this chart is that key level had the $80.60 area. Now, if we go to as far back as last year, almost a year now, September last year, you will see how the $80.60 level had played a major role in determining the direction of price action. At every point in time price comes into the zone, we see how that level either incite a bullish sentiment or a bearish sentiment. Now let's take a quick look at what has been going on here. Now, if we look at the month of September last year, we saw how buy pressure was here. We saw buy pressure around this area. The same thing happened in the month of October before price action did break down and retested that level in the month of November / December of last year. And since that moment, price action had remained below that $80.60 area to further emphasize the strength of the sellers around that juncture in the market. And not until August of this year, we begin to see a resurface of bullish attempt here to break out of that structure. And finally, we saw the breakout happen here during the last trading day of the month of August / the first week of the month of September. And since that time, price had remained above this level. Now, from a technical standpoint, hold on a second, let's zoom right in. Now, from a technical standpoint, when price action breaks out of a key structure such as this key level we identified here, we expect that some point in time price is likely going to come back, retest the structure to incite an uptrend continuation. Now, there's another condition here which we'll also want to take into consideration, and that is from the month of June here, you will see that the market has been on a strong bullish trend, and after connecting the series of higher lows, we have this ascending trend line to work with for this week. Now, we saw price break down the ascending trend line here. That was last week trading session. We saw the breakdown of that structure, which is for the first time price will be breaking down that trend line in the last couple of months. And this is a sign that price may likely be shifting momentum, remember, but it's not all the time this scenario happens, as you will see that as soon as price tested this $80.60 level, that was last week, we saw this bullish gap at the beginning of this week, bringing price back into that structure. Now, we are at a very crucial moment in this market right now where, depending on how price reacts to this level, will determine what our next line of action will be. Now, look at what has happened here. From a technical standpoint, we expect a breakdown, retest of structure, where the continued selling pressure below that ascending trend line will incite a downtrend scenario. Now, the question at this juncture is, are we going to be seeing selling pressure around this area to incite a downtrend move? Or is it likely we see price break back above the 86 and the ascending trend line to incite an uptrend scenario, especially considering the escalation in the Middle East right now, which could skyrocket the price of oil due to short of demand. Now let's scale down into a much more lower time frame where we want to see how market participant has been reacting to the structure here, especially around the $86 area since the early hours of this week, to determine what our next line of action will be. Now, scaling down into a much more lower time frame, let's say the 1 hour time frame here, this is what I was able to come up with this morning. Now, if you look at the structure here on the 1 hour time frame, first of all, here is our key level, which we identified on the higher time frame. On the daily time frame, of course, that's the $80.60 level. I think there is something here on the 4 hours time frame I would love to share with you. Okay, all right, this is what, let's go to the 4 hours time frame first of all before we go into what it's looking like on the 1 hour. Now, on the 4 hours time frame, since the beginning of this month, you will see price has been finding bearish momentum, and in fact I have a trend line after connecting the series of lower highs to emphasize the strength of the sellers here in the last couple of weeks. Now, this trend line here is going to play a major role in determining if we are going to go bullish or if we are going to continue the downtrend, as if price continue to reject the trend line, that is retest it to come to the downside, then we'll still maintain our bearish momentum. Now, look at what happened here during the second half of last week. We saw as soon as price tested the $80.60 zone, we saw a little bit of consolidation phase where price was confined within the $82.25 level and the $80.60 area to emphasize the level of uncertainty in this market. And of course, you know how we do it in this community. Whenever price action falls into this kind of range, we do want to be exercising patience, waiting for either the breakdown of the support line for selling opportunities or the breakout of the resistance line of that range for buying opportunity. Now, something interesting happened this morning as we saw this bullish gap here. Now, price closed around the $81.70 level during the course of the weekend, and we saw price open at around the $84.75 level. That's about a $3 gap, which gives us an insight into what the institutional market movers were doing during the course of the weekend. So they were more of buying the USOILSPOT, and this gives us an insight into their expectations. So they're expecting that price is likely going to rise, or there's going to be a short of demand in the market, which could incite a rise in price. And as a result of this, how do we intend to capitalize on this momentum? How do we intend to join this move? Now, from the way things are going right now, let's say we have a breakout of this resistance line, there are chances that price could come back, retest the structure where the appearance of buy pressure will incite the uptrend move. That's one scenario we are going to be looking at here. So is it possible that price would respect this descending trend line, incite a retracement into structure? And if that is going to be the case, how many pips do we have in distance? So we have roughly about 180 pips before price gets into the structure. So if we are going to be seeing some bearish momentum here, we do want to be part of that 180 pips move where price will come to retest the resistance level of that range, probably to incite an uptrend move, or if it continues to the downside, we will be part of that move. Now let's scale down to the 1 hour time frame so we can see how participants in this market has been reacting to that area around that descending trend line to decide what our next line of action will be. Now, scaling down into the 1 hour time frame, we begin to see things more clearly. Now, on the 1 hour time frame, this is what we identified on the 4 hours time frame, just around the resistance line of that of that trend line, the descending trend line we saw there. Now, what I saw here this morning is price has been confined within the $86 area and the $84.35 level to emphasize the level of indecision around that trend line. Now, with the scenario we have here, you know how we do it. We want to wait for either the breakdown or break out of that range to give us an opportunity to trade. And in fact, what I saw here this morning was the breakdown of this support line of that range at the $84.35 level to trigger my first sell position for the week. Now, if you had missed out on that opportunity, well, it's okay, it's fine. Let's hold on and see if the market will present another chance. And of course, you know that from a technical standpoint, when price breaks down structures, we expect it to come back, retest the structure to incite a downtrend move. So let's see if the market will come back. In fact, we have a retest already. If you had missed out on that one, let's see if it will come back again, and then we look out for selling pressure around that area to join that decline to the downside. So at this point in time, as long as price remains below the $84.35 level, we shall remain bearish in this particular market. Now, how far will this momentum phase go? Well, we don't know, but we do have a structure we will be using to guide that trading, that TP opportunity here. Now, let me scale back up into the 4 hours time frame and let me include the resistance line of that range we identified earlier, so it will reflect on the 1 hour time frame. So the TP target of this sell position is going to be, we have levels such as the $82.25 level, which will dovetail to how many pips that is. That's about 220 pips. And if it extends further into the $80.60 level, we have it extended by 380 pips. And if it goes on to break down the structure, then we can continue to maximize this move. So I will advise that you put your TP target as far out as possible, and depending on how price reacts to these levels, let's say the $82.25, the $80.60 area will now determine if we are going to be adding more sell position to our existing trade. Now, don't forget, I told us all that we have this $82.25 area where I think price will come into to inside the uptrend move. So let's see what happens. Trust me, I will be with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platforms to give you updates on what I think will happen if price will ever get close to that area. Now, in as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities here, we cannot ignore the potentials of buyers too. Now, the scenario we have here, that is the confinement in price action between the 86 and the $84.35 zone, may likely incite an uptrend scenario where the breakdown of the $84.35 could turn out to be a false breakdown. Now, if it so happens that price action takes us out of the sell position, then I will only look out for buying opportunities at the breakout retest of the $86 area. So that is the only area I will be looking out for buying opportunities today, as that will have taken out all the sell positions within that $86 area to give me confirmations that we are good to buy on this asset. But trust me, I will be with you in the comment section. At this point in time, we remain bearish and not going to be buying unless a breakout of the $86 area happens. But if it so happens that we begin to see higher highs and higher lows within this range, we could actually capitalize on some momentum even before the breakout of the resistance line happens. But I will give you updates on my TradingView and Telegram platform. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. So our center of focus this morning is simply between the $86 area and the $84.35 level, where depending on how price breakout or breakdown will give us a clue of where price will be going today. So these are my views here on the US All Spots. You want to be marking out those levels, the $86 mark and the $84.35 level, as this you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. If you have any questions whatsoever as regards the current setup, or you need me to do further clarification in an aspect, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move right into the next asset on our watch list. All right. So in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page. So I do hope you've marked out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So with that being said here, let's dive right into the next asset on our watch list. So the next asset on my watch list for this week is the GBPUSD, popularly known as the cable market. And in fact, I already have a sell position running right now based on the current market structure that we have here. Now, before I go into the details of what our expectations are here, I would like us to run through the higher time frame so that we can have an holistic perspective into what is really going on in this market. I didn't do a publication on the GBPUSD for this week, so I will be doing a top-down analysis on this one, and this will reveal to you how I was able to make the decision I just made on the GBPUSD. Now, the first thing I did on the GBPUSD was to scale up into the higher time frame, and I think my analysis started on the 4 hours time frame, of course. And this was what I was able to come up with on the 4 hours time frame. And what I did here was to take into consideration the nature of price action since the beginning of this month. Beginning of the month of September. So that is what I did here. And in fact, we have a very simple and interesting structure here, as we have a descending trend line, which further emphasized the strength of the sellers in this market in the last couple of months. And what I did was to connect the series of lower highs, giving me the resistant line of that descending channel, and of course connected a series of lower lows, giving me the support line of that descending channel. Now, something interesting happened in the last couple of weeks here. You will see, if you look at the structure closely, you will see that price action has been confined within the 1.22650 level and the 1.2040 area in the last couple of weeks, which further emphasize the level of indecision around this area. So though we are within a descending channel, but in the later part of the last couple of weeks here, we have seen a consolidation, and this consolidation here has evolved into a situation where price had finally broken out of that resistance line that was on Thursday of last week trading session, and we saw price come back again to retest the structure on Friday, and this led to an engulfing bullish candle out of that area. Now, from a technical standpoint, when price breaks out of the resistance line of a descending channel, we expect price to come back, retest to incite an uptrend continuation. Now, at this point in time, as long as price remains above this resistant line of that descending channel, we shall continue to look out for buying opportunities. Now, to help us guide our trading decisions for this week, I was able to spot a key level which we are going to be using to guide our trading decision, and that is the 1.21800 area, which of course price remains above this level, we look out for patterns and structures to buy. And if price drops below this level, we shall be looking out for patterns and structures to sell. Now, what I'm going to be doing now is to scale down into the lower time frame so we can see how participants in this market has been reacting to this current structure since the beginning of this week to decide what our next line of action will be. Now, scaling, before we scale down, there is a trend line here which I can see gradually unfolding. As you can see, price had consistently, uniformly found higher lows since last week, Tuesday. We saw this low here, and we saw another low here, then another one right here on Friday. Now, if this continues and price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall continue to hold on to a bullish bias here. Now, with that being said here, and with the information we've gathered on the higher time frame, let's scale down into the 1 hour time frame so we can see how participants has been reacting to the structure since the beginning. All right, everyone, I'm sorry for the break in transmission. I had network issues, so I had to switch my router so that we can have a better experience out here. So please let me know in the comment section if you can hear me loud and clear and there are no freezing going on over there, as this will help me to ensure that we have a better experience out here. So please let me know in the comment section if there are any issues. And I saw your response. Arashis Tom, good morning to you. You are quite correct. Mass is the right answer. All right, everyone. While I wait for your feedbacks as regards to the audio and the visual quality, I will continue. And if there are any issues, I will continue to monitor the comment section for your feedbacks. So like I was saying earlier, we are right on the 1 hour time frame right now, and this is the ascending trend line we spotted on the 4 hours time frame. And as long as price remains above this ascending trend line, we shall feel comfortable in a bullish expectation here. Though I'm taking a counter trend opportunity right now by selling right below that area. And if price continues to drop below that key level, I will continue to look out for more selling opportunities. And if it so happens that this ascending trend line is breached to the downside, then I will be adding more sell position to my existing trade. Now, the question at this juncture right now is this: how did I go to the point of selling? Why have I sold the GBPUSD? Now, let's talk about the fundamental aspect first of all. Now, in the case of scenario where we are currently witnessing the escalation in the Middle East, and in this kind of scenario, there's always going to be an imbalance in the financial landscape where everyone will be pulling out their funds from risk-worthy assets into assets that are considered to be safe haven, and the US dollar is one of them, one of the major safe haven assets in the world. And in that regard, it makes quite a lot of sense to put your funds, your GBP funds, in the US dollar. And as a result of this, we are likely going to see a positive traction in favor of the US dollar. So that is one fundamental reason why I have sold this morning. Now, secondly, from a technical standpoint, the first thing I observed this morning was a range where price was confined between the 1.22360 level and the 1.2200 area. Now, in addition to that range is this descending trend line after connecting the series of lower highs, which further emphasize the strength of the seller since last week Friday. Now, if this continues and price action remains below that descending trend line, then we shall continue to look out for patterns and structures that supports the idea of selling. Now, this went on and we finally saw the breakdown retest of the support line of the range and the 1.220 area for me to join a bearish momentum here. And that is why I have sold this. And if price continues to drop below the 1.218, which happens to be our key level, remember we spotted this on the higher time frame, a breakdown of the structure will welcome more selling opportunities. Now I want to see if price will be breaking down this ascending trend line. If it does break down that ascending trend line, I'm of the opinion that it's going to be a strong bearish momentum to the downside. However, if price gets into the trend line and instead of breaking down the trend line, it begins to find buy pressure, then this might likely be an attempt to respect the trend line just as it has been doing since last week Tuesday to incite an uptrend continuation. So let's see how this will play out today. I will be with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platforms to give you updates as at when due. So as long as price still remains below this trend line, I hold on to a bearish bias, and there are still chances for those who had missed out on this bearish move. There are still chances that price could come back, retest the 1.220 or that descending trend line to inside the downtrend continuation. Now, in as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities, you know how we do it in this community. We also want to keep tab with the opposite direction too. Now, in this case scenario, the chances that buyers will still come in is still very possible. And what is it that we want to see on this chart that will make us feel comfortable joining a bullish move? Now, this is where this trend line here comes in handy. This descending trend line we spotted here. Now, as long as price remains below the trend line, we feel comfortable in a bearish momentum. But as soon as price breaches this trend line, we want to be getting ready for a momentum shift, that is a trend continuation to the upside. So for me to buy the GBPUSD today, I would want to see a breakout happen. Remember, we are not getting too excited here as we will need some confirmations to happen, like a retest of structure where they continue buy pressure at both the trend line and our key level at the 1.218 will be all we need to join that uptrend move. And if price continues to climb higher highs, then a breakout of the 1.22360 level, which happens to be the highest point price action has been for this week, will be welcoming more buying opportunities here. So this is how we are going to be managing our position on the GBPUSD today. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So personally, I've already moved my stop loss to my entry point here. For those who took advantage of the bearish move, move your stop losses, secure the current sell positions while we wait out and see how the market will play out here. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions whatsoever before we move right into the last asset on our watch list for today. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I want to assume that we are all on the same page here. And in that regard, let's move into the last asset on our watch list for today. So the last asset on our watch list for today is my favorite, and that is the XAUUSD, which is popularly known as the gold spot. And in fact, we have a very interesting setup unfolding right now on the 1 hour time frame. Now, for those who don't know, or for those who are joining us for the first time, like I used to say, we normally buttress on the 1 hour time frame, which happens to be our execution time frame. So I already done a video on the XAUUSD top-down analysis on this asset during the course of the weekend and ahead of this week, on where and what I'm going to be expecting on this chart and how I intend to position myself for any trading opportunities for this week. So I encourage you to watch that video, as this will give you a better understanding of how we got to this current point we are in right now. The link is right in the description box below. You can check it out after the session so you can have a better understanding of what is going on here. So on the 1 hour time frame here, the first thing we observed this morning is the fact that price action had found a bullish gap. In fact, we have about a $16 gap. As you will see, price closed the week last week around the 1,831, and we saw the market open around the 1,846, which reveals the nature of trading activities during the course of the weekend. And it's like majority are looking forward to an uptrend move where everyone is pumping in their funds into the gold commodity. Now remember, if you had watched my video on the XAUUSD, remember I mentioned here that we have something like a reversal pattern here following that impulsive move, and despite the strong bearish momentum we witnessed in the last couple of weeks, we saw how it became difficult for sellers to break through the 1,815 and the $1,810 area, which further emphasized that buyers might likely be building up some momentum ahead of the new week. And of course, whenever we notice this kind of reversal pattern, the next thing we normally do is to identify the neckline of that reversal pattern, which interestingly lines up along the 1,830. And if you have watched my video closely, I made mention that as long as price remains above this neckline, I will be looking out for buying opportunities. So what I simply mean there is a breakout retest of that neckline will validate that reversal pattern, hereby giving us an opportunity to join the uptrend move. Now, with the situation we have this morning, noticing a bullish gap, price technically have broken out of that trend line. Now, the question I have right now is since we already have a breakout of the neckline, from a technical standpoint, we expect that some point in time price is likely going to come back, retest the structure in anticipation of an uptrend continuation. Now you will see here that following the bullish gap here, price had been confined within a range that is between the 1,855 and the $1,846 area to emphasize the level of indecision at this point in time. Now the question here is, where will the breakout come? Is it going to break to the upside to incite an uptrend scenario, hereby giving us an uptrend continuation pattern in the form of a bullish rectangle? Or are we going to be seeing the breakdown of the 1,846 in an attempt to retrace and retest the neckline that was broken to incite an uptrend continuation? So we will need to be very, very patient here. Of course, you know how we do it. Whenever we have this kind of range, we have no other choice than to exercise patience, waiting for the right time to join the next move, which of course will come either in the form of a breakout of the resistance line for buying opportunities or breakdown of the support line for selling opportunities. So our center of focus basically for today is within that range, waiting for the breakout to happen to give us an idea of where to go. Now, let me talk about the bearish expectations here. If price breaks down the 1,846, I want to see a retest before I join, and this will be a retracement of that impulsive move that broke out of that structure. So we have about 150-60 pips to catch here if price goes to the downside at the breakdown retest of structure. Now it depends on what happens around the neckline here at the 1830 that will now determine if we are going to be buying, that is if we start seeing reversal patterns like double bottom structures to join the uptrend scenario. But if price breaks down that neckline, then the chances of adding more position to the sell position increases at that point. So that is one way we are going to be getting ready for a move here on the XAUUSD. And the other one is the breakout of the 855 level, taking out all the sell positions here and signaling a potential uptrend continuation. Now, if this happens, I want to be part of an uptrend move to join that continuation to the upside. So let's see how the price would react to the structure. Our center of focus for today, for this morning, is simply between the 1855 and the 1846. So you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So I do hope that I made myself very, very clear here. So let's see how the market will react to the structure. And trust me, I will be with you in the comment section of both my TradingView and Telegram platforms to give you updates on what is going on in this market. So I don't know if you have any questions whatsoever as regards to the current setup, or you need me to do further clarification as regards to the setup. Of course, feel free to let me know in the comment section. So as usual, I will be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to see if there are any questions before we do a roundup for today's trade Forex Morning Mastery. All right. So in the absence of no questions, we shall continue to monitor price action here. And it's on this note I want to be calling it a day. It has been a wonderful moment with you guys this morning. I really appreciate every single moment we had together as we were able to take on three major assets for today, which are the GBPUSD, the XAUUSD, and of course the USOILSPOT, all of which we were able to identify simple setups using simple parameters such as trend lines, key levels, and of course chart patterns to gain valuable insight into the historical price movements of this asset, hereby giving us valuable information to strategically position ourselves ahead of today's trading session. And I'm very confident that if we can exercise patience and allow our structures to mature, we will definitely be on the positive side of our portfolio. And for those who are joining us for the first time, I do hope you are able to gain one or two things from what we discussed here this morning. And I encourage you to be part of our subsequent editions, as the more time you spend with us here, the better you get in understanding how the strategy works and eventually be able to use this information to make your own independent trading decisions. So once again, you are welcome. And if you have found this content helpful and useful in making your independent trading decisions for today, I really appreciate your support by giving the video a thumbs up. Your likes are very valuable to me, and in fact, it also helps the algorithm promote the video to a wider audience of traders who may find this content beneficial to them too. Thank you in advance for doing so. Clicking on that like button is the cheapest way you can support this project, and I really do appreciate your support. And for those who had clicked the like button so far, thank you very, very much for your support. So right in the comment section, I have the XAUUSD live window. The link to the XAUUSD live window is going to be starting in about 5 to 10 minutes into the New York session. And for those who don't know, the XAUUSD live window was a platform born out of popular demand in this community, and it's a platform where we come together to monitor and trade the XAUUSD live on this platform. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the comment section of the XAUUSD live window, and let's make that environment an energetic one. So thank you very much, guys. I really do appreciate your time. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the comment section of both my Trading View Telegram platform and of course during the XAUUSD live window as we continue to monitor price action. Do have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye-bye.